Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Stray Pixels podcast, where I have an exciting announcement to make. Guys, I've decided that this week is the final episode of Stray Pixels podcast phase 1. What does that mean? Frankly, I don't know. But I know that you guys get really excited when we say the word phase and then make the number go higher.
Well, now we need the Stray Pixels Cross Unqualified Game Chat movie mashup, which will signify the start of phase 2, where we add a third.
We already had Spencer. We already had Spencer. Obviously, that means that coming up shortly will be Stray Pixels, the web series. Which ultimately will just be a series of smaller self-referential episodes that build up to movies we expect you to pay real money for.
Please.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that this week, but our third Marvel nerd was unavailable.
Who's our third Marvel nerd? Spencer?
Spencer.
Yeah. Oh. Which would have been topical because I'm finishing up Miss Marvel this week. Finally.
But in any case, yeah, we had like a bunch of rejected podcast ideas this week, and we were kind of scrambling to find something to talk about because like our other one would have been Stray, but Nate hasn't played it yet, and Semi who probably wants to talk about it with us is live as we speak, so maybe that'll be next week. Maybe next week. I'll focus on getting it out because my next review I'm going to finish up tomorrow and put it out there. But anyway, I am your host, Noisy Pixel staff writer Colin Buchanan, joined as usual by my co-writer Nathan Mejia, and our staff writer / graphics editor / translator / does everything Angelus Victor / Ryuji.
Oh my god. Yes, I'm sorry. My title is a mouthful.
Man of 1,000 talents.
Yeah.
I wish that I was as good at Ryuji as at everything at anything. So
I barely have some video editing and writing experience.
Well, you're gonna get a lot more video editing experience soon. Tease, nudge, nudge.
Wink, wink.
So anyway, the topic that we did end up landing on for this week is a game that I have been really excited about for a long time, more than a decade, frankly, almost 2 decades now, and one that a bunch of other people on the site are just now finally getting to discover and play for the first time, and that is Live Alive, which just recently on Friday got a full remake for the Nintendo Switch using the HD 2D art style that I believe was originated with Octopath Traveler. Yes, Nate and his. You got new grips for it.
Yes, I did. And Calvin.
It doesn't show on camera.
No, because the light is too strong.
The focus is really off.
No, the light was really strong. Was what? Was he?
Oh my gosh!
Focus.
I cannot believe that got a physical.
Hey man, I have Galgun 2. I'm gonna get Galgun double piece on this, and I have Galgun Returns on this.
All power to you. I will never quite understand what possesses heteros to make hentai video games, but
hey, it skirts that line. And to be fair, it's actually a really fun rail shooter, which I'm a big fan of.
No, I know. I've heard fun things. It's like I've accepted that it's like Keijo, where it's like this is quite obviously a product of some quality. It's just definitively not made for me, and I'm going to get nothing out of it. So I'm just gonna leave it to the people that it's for.
Yeah. It's for us nerds who like light guns games and are kind of perverts. I'm not afraid.
I mean, I'm just a homosexual, so I'm just gonna mind my business. and play Live Alive, which I finally got to start in earnest today because I've been working every day since it came out. I've been working every day since I finished Stray, frankly. So I'm really happy that that review got out there and is doing okay. But anyway, Ryuji had the idea to talk about Live Alive in the context of it being an HD 2D game, which is what the art style is called, where they basically take like a game that would normally be like a 16-bit like throwback homage and sort of glitz it up with distance effects and drop shadows and particle effects.
Yeah, although
it looks quite nice.
Engine. Yeah, I'm using Unreal Engine to like add more shadows, and like it's still sprites, but in a 3D environment that is very high definition.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
So with this art style, the art style as it exists today really was codified with Octopath Traveler a couple years ago, but I kind of thought of a precursor game that also used a pretty similar art style. Anybody remember 3D Dot Game Heroes?
Yes, if anybody who's a Scott the Woz fan will know about that.
I own a copy. I owned it before he put the episode out. But that was a very similar idea of taking blocky characters, putting them on like a three-dimensional angled camera plane, really aggressive lighting effects. The absurdly aggressive lighting effects in that case, because the water in 3D Dot Game Heroes is absolutely fucking blinding to look at, which is why it's difficult to play the game for very long periods of time, even if it is fun.
Yeah. It's as if there's a spotlight coming at you at all times in that game.
But I know that Ryuji had some feelings about the art style as it was used in Octopath. So Ryuji, do you want to kind of talk about your experience? Because I haven't played Octopath yet.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Back when Octopath Traveler was released, okay, this might be controversial, but I hated the HD 2D style that was used on it because it looked too, what's the word? Like certain scenes were so bright and some of them were too dark for me to see anything. And like the lighting was just so off, and the bloom effect was also atrocious. And also, it felt like every character in Octopath Traveler, although unique, it felt like they all had the same expressions, which is close their eyes and then have their hands stretched out. That was it.
So that kind of strikes me as maybe an homage to the 16-bit Final Fantasy games, where those characters basically all had a very limited animation template. I believe that all of them had like maybe 16 total frames of animation or something like that, if that. And that's across all of their animations. So that's why you got a lot of blinks and a lot of whatever this is. I'm assuming it's meant to be a shrug when you don't have when your shoulders are 2 pixels across.
Yeah, I also think that might have been it, but also since Octopath was an original game, it wasn't like a remake of anything. They could have done a bit more because all the animations felt samey to me. But really, what bothered me was the lightning, like the contrast and saturation were just so off. But then I played Live Alive, and my God, they improved so much on it.
And I mean, it's kind of funny because Octopath Traveler, even at the time it was coming out, was pretty obviously very heavily inspired by Live Alive. So it's kind of neat to see this art style go from imitator to original in this way. There was another game that used this art style, wasn't there?
Dragon Quest 10 offline is going to use it.
Thank you. Which we're not going to get here, but
unfortunately,
we find more excuses to reference the shitty Dragon Quest live stream every week.
Hey man, just remember, if you want Dragon Quest stuff, just go to Japan. That's all.
Just be born in Japan.
Just start teaching English in Japan. What can I say?
Oh my god.
Not right now though. The border's still closed.
Yeah, not right now.
And
But
yeah, so
I quite like the way that Live Alive looks from what I have been able to play of it so far. It's very easy on the eyes. I do remember seeing those complaints about Octopath Traveler, and that was kind of one of the things that turned me off about it. I also didn't like, from what I saw, the really aggressive bokeh effect in Octopath Traveler, where they would like aggressively blur the background out.
yeah, I remember that. It was also, it was so hard to see certain parts except the center of the screen. Like the blur was really, really bad.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy that they toned that down.
No,
It still happens sometimes. I mean, it depends on the error you're playing.
Yeah.
Without spoiling much, I can say it does happen on some errors, but yeah, it does not happen as much as Octopath did.
Yeah, and I could see it being a neat effect for certain areas, like desert areas. I could see using that blur effect more. But I know what you're talking about. Even in the middle of the city, sometimes it would just be like, okay, all I can really see in detail is my character, and that's it.
Yeah. As of we're recording right now, I already finished pretty much half of the game. I still got like 3 errors to go, and not counting, of course, the spoilers, the so-called story that ties it all together.
For those of you watching, I know that there have been people asking where our review is. I believe that it is going to be Ryuji who reviews it, because I don't have time to finish the game right now, and he's already got all of his footage that he needs anyway. But I'll be doing the voiceover for it, and I'll be doing an editing pass based on my experience playing the original version of the game that was fan translated, which I wrote about in a feature a couple of months ago after this remake was announced. So I've been really excited about this.
Me too. I can't wait to try and finish a certain error, because I really liked how it looks, even though it's really hard.
Yeah.
I think I can talk about it. The Twilight of Edo Japan. That thing is hard. Like, it's probably one of the hardest chapters so far for me.
This is the thing with Live Alive is even in this remake, they toned it down a little bit, but not too dramatically. It is a Super Nintendo game, and it is a game from an era in which you were expected to grind in your JRPGs. So even just having done the prehistoric era, which is all I've managed to do so far in the remake, like the end game is significantly easier if you just like spend half an hour grinding as soon as you're finally tossed out with your full party into the wasteland.
Yeah, that did happen to me. One of the eras where I could not beat a certain boss, but the game did let me go out and grind. So I just grinded for about 40 minutes or so, and then came back. I ended up getting over leveled, but that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay, because it's not like Dragon Quest level of grinding where
it's better to be over leveled than under leveled. Really.
Always.
And nowadays in a lot of modern number-based RPGs, basically any amount of required grinding is kind of taboo. Like it's generally going to get a game criticized for not being balanced or having a good difficulty curve. And back in the day, this was just completely normal.
Yeah, grinding is hard to get right, because you have to make everything enjoyable. And right now, it's the current meta of game industry to not do turn-based combat.
Well, sure, but I also think that turn-based combat is kind of having has been having a bit of a renaissance basically ever since Bravely Default came out. I think a lot of people are revisiting it as a combat system, and it's mostly just, so back in the day, games could cost like $80 freaking dollars, if not occasionally even more than that, and there were a lot fewer of them coming out. So it was almost a way of like inflating the players' playtime so that they get more out of their game. Obviously, it's on the developer to make sure that it's still enjoyable to do so, but it's with Live Alive, it's not that difficult because again, you're not usually required to do very much grinding in each separate chapter, and the fact that you're doing it with basically a completely separate party every time makes it a little more fresh. In addition to the fact that you can't just spam the attack button for the most part, because you do like the combat's very simple, but you do have to think about where the enemies are, area of effect attacks, and you know, making sure your characters aren't dying because your characters probably don't have many hit points.
And considering like each character in Lava Life has like a differing HP bar, you really I really had to like, okay, so wait, this character has this much HP, these are the equipment that I have, and here's what abilities they can use. That takes a good 10 minutes that took a good 10 minutes for me to like figure out what I had at my disposal before going to the battles. Like what was the range and stuff, and what was the attribute. It really varies depending on the chapter.
And then, yeah, depending on the chapter, there's like potentially not much combat at all to be found anyway. So it's kind of funny because if you start with prehistoric, which most people do just because it makes sense to start with the one that chronologically comes first, like that is pretty straightforward. There's plenty of combat. There's not random encounters, but there are encounters to be had, and there's boss fights. And then you get to like the Wild West chapter, and there's very little.
Yeah, it's there. I mean, yeah. I as someone who finished Wild West, I haven't finished Prehistory yet.
But anyway, kind of going a little bit broader back into the HD2D topic, something that always comes up when people sort of see this art style in action again is, ooh, what if they did this game this way? What if we get a remake of this game this way? And so I kind of wanted to ask if you guys had any off the beaten path suggestions for games that could be remade in this fashion. And they don't necessarily have to be Square games, just because they currently, you know, basically have dibs on the style. I'm just going to eliminate the really obvious ones out of the gate. Basically, everybody thought when the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters were announced, like, oh, wouldn't it be awesome if they did it this way? And they didn't. And that was kind of a wasted opportunity. I think that it would have made them a lot more impactful, but they kind of just came and went. Like, yes, it would have made them take a lot longer to come out, and they probably would have had to cost more, but I think that a lot of people would have been a lot more interested in them were they like actual, like, full updated remakes of the games. And the other one, the other one is Chrono Trigger. That is currently the one that's like at the top of everybody's list, just because I think everybody wants more Chrono Trigger. And also some people forgot that it actually already got it's not like it's a lost game. It got a DS port.
It also has a phone port, and I think
it also has a PC port too.
Yeah. Okay. I thought about PC, but I don't know if I was just imagining that.
So if you guys don't mind, I actually have a really good one to start off this discussion.
Do it.
Pokemon Black and White.
I could see Pokemon. Yeah, I think Pokemon would really benefit from it.
Yeah, I also see it benefiting from that.
I say this because of the pretty strong negative reception to the art style of the Diamond and Pearl remakes. And a lot of people saying, oh, I wish they just kept it sprite based because that's a lot more timeless than whatever the heck this is. And I think that Black and White really was like the absolute apex of the you know, the pre-polygonal Pokemon era in terms of its art design. I remember like crossing the bridge into the city on my DS and like the camera angle swinging around to show me like the huge pixelated city in front of me. And I was like, oh my God, that's so fucking dope. So I think that it would hugely benefit from it, because like the reality is that you don't have to change much. It would genuinely, I think, be a really cool way to just like kind of touch up what a lot of people are looking back on as either the strongest or the second strongest generation of Pokemon. Because we know that the remakes are eventually coming, because why wouldn't they be?
Yeah.
So that might be a nice little course correction from what they did for Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl.
Yeah. Okay, so as for me, I'm gonna actually throw an oddball. Like, I would love to see like Earthbound Beginnings.
Ooh,
In that
so like
style.
specifically beginnings?
Yeah, no, actually, basically, maybe a collection, Beginnings and Mother 1, because
Those are the same game.
Those are technically the same game, Ryuji.
Is it?
Yes, Earthbound Beginnings is the localized version of Mother 1.
Yes.
Okay,
Earthbound is Mother 2.
I'm going with Mother because I only remember the games better as Mother. So like a collection with Mother 1 and Mother 2, but specifically Mother 1 because I think the last port it got was on the GBA.
Yes, only in Japan.
Yeah, and only in Japan.
No, it's on the Virtual Console.
Oh,
yes, it is.
Okay, yeah.
I think it might even be on Nintendo Online.
Yes, it is. It's hard for me. I don't consider those ports, even though they technically are. But in my head, they're not ports because they're.
Well,
sure. I'm just saying, like they've been made available more recently.
They're easily available. They're easily available.
Yeah, but still, like
no, you're fine. Your suggestion is fine. I was just correcting your statement of recency.
Yeah, sorry. I haven't played that game in so long, but like Earthbound Beginnings would be a nice candidate to remake in that HD 2D style.
I mean, at that point, I genuinely think that people would be angry because re-releasing Earthbound 1 and 2 and not just doing the obvious thing and remaking Mother 3.
Oh yeah, that might put more salt into the wound.
Like, I think that a lot of people genuinely would pay the $50 price tag that we saw for Live Alive for an HD 2D Mother 3.
Yeah.
So
I can see that.
Another game, though, that one got a 3D remake. No. And there's a bunch. Most of the games come from Square. Let's be real.
Well, sure. I just didn't want to limit it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many that they could do. Like Secret Mana, I guess. I don't know if Super Mario RPG could be considered.
No.
Because it's not really a I don't know how
it's not really 2D.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not even 2D, even though it is kind of sprite based.
It's sprite based, but the game is already on a fairly three-dimensional plane because it's isometric.
Kind of like how Donkey Kong Country does its sprite work to make you think it's 3D modeling and stuff like that. I think one that we've been throwing out RPGs, but why not Megaman?
Speaking of, I just remembered right now actually when like about Pokemon, there was a Pokemon spin-off game on the DS that I would kind of love to see back. I believe it was called what was it? Pokemon Conquest.
I was gonna say it was Conquest, I'm sure.
Yeah, Conquest. It was one of my favorite games on the DS, so I would love to see it back because it does fit the criteria, doesn't it?
Kind of, but so Pokemon Conquest is in a weird spot because it's technically a crossover. And not really technically. In Japan it is explicitly a crossover. It was just a crossover with a series that is not remotely popular in the West, so it was just localized under the name Pokemon Conquest. But in Japan, the English title would be Pokemon plus Nobunaga's Ambition.
It's a Nobunaga's Ambition game.
So it's kind of in a weird spot re-releases. I want it too. I think that a lot of people did not pay this game any mind. But I think at this point, just like a full new entry would be
Preferable.
Would probably be preferable.
Yeah.
Where's Pokemon Coliseum? Okay, I'm getting off topic at this point. Yeah, we will leave Pokemon Coliseum because that's another can of worms we're not talking today.
As for Mega Man, like, it sounds really cool. The only thing stopping me from saying that I want that is the fact that we already got the Legacy collections, and that's not even the first time that they did a Mega Man like collection.
Oh, no. Mega Man is easy to get as Earthbound at this time.
So, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a game that's hard to get. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people in the last couple of years have already paid money to play Mega Man, you know? So I'm just like, I don't know how that would be received, especially since that would mean that they were doing that and not like making something new, because as cool as it's been to get all of the Legacy collections, a lot of people are really starved for new Mega Man stuff, because I think the last new Mega Man anything is still Mega Man 11.
Yes, that sounds about right. Yeah.
And that was years ago. It's kind of remarkable how quickly we went from, guys, we're getting way too much Mega Man shit, to this absolute drought that we've been in terms of actual new content. Because during the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS era, oh my god, people were like tripping over new Mega Man games as they walked to work in the morning. There were too many.
And also, one last thing, and I say this. I feel if a game needs to be HD 2D remake, it would there's a higher chance that it will be from Square, because
of course.
I think this was months ago when their president, the president of Square Enix, yes, the same guy who kind of promoted that thing you guys talked about in the previous episode, the NFT stuff. But he also said that he wants to see older Square games in HD 2D. So people are hyped for that.
Well, sure. I just didn't want us to like end up basically all talking about the same thing.
It's okay.
And to limit because I wanted to go broader with the topic.
It's kind of hard, because if you look at the potential candidates, the majority of them are from Square.
Well, that's because we're all thinking RPGs, but I think, older Link to the Past and things like that could also work in HD 2D.
But then Link Between Worlds, there was Link Between Worlds, which was basically a reimagination of Link to the Past.
No, that's a full-on sequel, my guy.
It's a sequel.
It's 100% a sequel.
The Zelda timeline does not work that way, Reach.
No.
Anytime you hear the word reimagining, your brain should just replace it with sequel.
Okay. That's fair.
That being said, I do have one more fairly obvious target, but it's fairly obvious because it's in a very similar position to Live Alive, and that is Bahamut Lagoon, which is a beloved Square SRPG from the Super Nintendo days that was the recipient of a very popular and well-known fan translation, but as of yet still has not seen a single official release outside of Japan that I know of.
Because I think for me, you said that name and my brain spit out a 404 error.
It's very like it's almost precursor-y to Final Fantasy Tactics. Although if I wanted to say something crazy, an HD 2D demake of Final Fantasy Tactics sounds lit as fuck, and I would play that.
That Square kind of likes to think Tactics doesn't exist, I think.
Well, it's weird because we're getting the Diofield Chronicle, and that's basically a game that they didn't want to call Final Fantasy Tactics so that it wouldn't be saddled with the burden of being a Final Fantasy Tactics game, in addition
It's
to the
getting very
diminishing
lackluster
sales
marketing.
that the last couple games in the series had.
Yeah.
Because my beloved, my darling, my greatest love, Final Fantasy Tactics A2 sold like crap, and that was what killed the series, outside of, I guess, the mobile game space, because War of the Visions is very technically a tactics game.
Yeah, very technically a tactics game.
Although the War of the Lions did get a phone port. Lord knows why they didn't port Tactics Advance, but
Who knows?
shrug. Any final thoughts on HD2D games or Live Alive for the podcast?
Please continue improving Square. Like, you're in the right direction, and don't go back to like the thing that the oversaturated bloom that was Octopath Traveler. You're going on the right path. Just don't like do that whole thing where one step forward then 3 steps back. This expression, please.
Ryuji successfully used an American idiom. I'm so proud of you.
I mean, believe.
It's close enough. I usually hear it as 1 step forward, 2 steps back, but potato, potato.
Yeah,
let's call the whole thing off.
I
tried.
You tried, and that's the most anybody could ask of you.
Congratulations, you tried.
As for me, I'm looking forward to trying out Live Alive. I've heard next to nothing about it, but that's because it just didn't enter my space of recognition for a long time. So I'm interested to get into it. And for HD2D, I just wish there was more games that are actually utilizing it, other than like the 3 or 4 we have. Because I think Triangle Strategy, as it's now called, is also using it.
Kind of. Like, it's different enough that I don't like obviously it's like some kind of spiritual successor to Octopath, but it also looks wildly different, and it looks honestly more like the demake of Tactics that I just proposed than it does to Octopath, Live Alive, or Dragon Quest. So shrug. It would be cool to see, but they'd have to let other people start using it too.
That's where they'd make a lot of money if they license it out.
Anyway, in the second half of this week's episode, we're going to sort of let you guys in on a peek behind the curtain a little bit by talking about some of our favorite and more likely least favorite YouTube comments that have ever been left on our reviews. Who's ready for a rabbit hole?
Oh my god.
We'll see you guys in a minute.
Yep.
Welcome back, everybody. So in the second half of this week's episode, we're going to kind of dive into some of our comment sections from the last year and a half that we've been doing this now. And not to bury the lead, we are going to start with my absolute favorite Noisy Pixel comment saga of all time. And that is the developer of Outbreak Endless Nightmares jumps into Nate's comments section.
I remember that. That was something.
I remember putting that review out because it was kind of like a it was a joke in the server, essentially, of we'll have Nate review this.
Have Nate review it, and then it's like one of the very few 1 out of 10s on the site. And we didn't get a code for the new Outbreak game that came out a couple months ago, because despite the fact that the series comes from one single developer, apparently he's got enough time on his hands to put out a new game every year, which should also tell you the quality that he's shooting for.
The bar is really low, I guess.
And we were kind of floating around to the idea of everybody chipping in to pay the $30 to get Nate a key for the new one.
Yeah, just keep the joke going. That one's like crazy, because even now I'm back on it. It has almost 19,000 views and over 100 comments.
Are all of the guys' comments still up? I can't remember if Azario ever just like banned him from commenting.
I don't know. I'm looking now.
I've had Azario ban people before.
Well, I mean,
We'll talk about it.
I can only think like the moment this episode comes up, you can bet there's gonna be a whoa there bot just commenting below.
Yeah.
Really.
There's gonna be a sex bot commenting on it because we always have our friend the scam bot down in the comments every episode.
Finally, it's out.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, that's actually the big one I was going to reference too. Another one was when
hang on. So before we move on, I want to like actually get into the Outbreak guy.
Yeah. Okay. So his things are in there, but let's talk about Outbreak guy. His comments are still on the video too. I just checked. So basically he was in there going like, hey, we got bug fixes out.
As if that alone was gonna fix this game.
Oh god, yeah.
And my favorite comment from that one in particular was when he outright said, yeah, the engine that I use is a bit on the older side, so it's a bit limited. And I'm like, why are you telling this? Why? That's shooting yourself in the foot.
And we're just like we're in Discord just absolutely clowning on this guy for being in here bothering people that are commenting on the video. And some people were like, oh, good to like, some people were responding to him, but it's just like, this is the dumbest possible place for you to be communicating with the people that play your game, because reviews are not for the developers.
No.
Like if they want to watch them and then like take some notes on what they can do better in the future, sure. But you should not, as a developer, as a publisher, as someone involved with the making of a game, be in the comments section of reviews ever.
Yeah,
that goes for video games, books, movies, anything.
Yeah,
because and even if you are gonna look at comments, there are better places to look for it, like a lot of them.
No.
Go yell on Twitter about stuff you found on Metacritic.
Like communicate through official Twitter sources, do this or that. Hey, we know that not in our Twitter section trying to convince people to please buy this game.
on a 1 out of 10 review.
On a 1 out of 10 review. The joke about that too was, if I remember correctly, I was like, I want to give this a 0.
You did say that. I remember that. This was, I think, the third review you ever wrote for the site.
Yep. It was like the third review, and I'm like, I want to give this a 0.
And Azario was like, no, Metacritic won't take a 0.
Yeah. You can give it a 1 though, and I'm like, I'll take it.
That's so funny to me, because like on a 10-point scale, like because 0 is not an option.
Yep.
Like otherwise it would be an 11-point scale, and I get that, but that also means that like there's games out there that have like a 1 score that should be a 0, but we had to give it a single point, I guess, for existing.
Yeah.
It exists.
It exists. It's technically playable.
I
could technically play.
It's not like the game will brick your PS5 if you play it.
Oh, brother, that game was tearing itself asunder just playing it. There was a camera mode that just let you tear through the level.
I'm wondering now.
I remember when I saw you play that game and was like, is this on PS4? And then it's like, no, this is PS5. I'm like, this is PS5?
Yeah.
Did we? What Ryuji just said got me thinking, and I looked it up on Google. I don't think we ever reviewed Anthem.
No, we didn't.
Nosy Pixel never reviewed Anthem. They did a preview. This was before our time, but They did a preview, but I don't see a review for it.
Fair, Anthem, I think, wasn't giving out many review copies. I don't see Azario shelling out the money for Anthem.
I should do it now. I should do it now with one of my coaster copies.
Really?
They're still playable.
I mean, the disc is just a key at this point.
Yeah,
That's what most of these discs are now.
it's like getting a Telltale game on physical.
I feel every episode we talk about a bad game, Colin's gonna reference, oh yeah, I have this game as a coaster.
Not true. So the games that I have on Coaster, I have my original copy of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4.
Okay.
And that is just because I bought it in a GameStop case, and I eventually got a copy that was in a real case. But this was long after the game would have been worth anything to try and resell or anything like that.
Yeah.
I have, I think, a couple of old NHL games, and then I have Destiny 2 and Anthem, and I have like 4 copies of Anthem and like 10 copies of Destiny 2.
Yeah, because Destiny 2 goes like sub $5 frequently.
Sub $2 on GameStop right now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's right. People, you too can have your Colin approved coasters.
Yeah.
So one of my favorites came from, I believe to this day still my most viewed review was for Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which is kind of amusing because I cranked that out in like 2 days. It was out real quick, and I did not put that much effort into it, and Bailey said he really liked it. But I had this one guy in the comments who has changed his name now, because I went to try and find these comments again, and they're still up, but under a different name, but the profile picture is the same, of a guy clearly trying to pick fights with people who said they liked Yu-Gi-Oh! In the comments of my review.
Okay.
And like yelling at people saying that Link Evolution was better. It's not. Saying that the game was super greedy. It kind of is, but like the game had just come out. Like, what gacha game isn't going to be greedy right out of the gate? And also it's barely a gacha game. And it was just like, this went on and on and on. I want to say that this guy left like more than a dozen comments in one thread, to the point where this is the guy that I had Azario banned. I was like, can we have this guy like banned from making comments on our videos anymore? Because this is too much. Like, the fact that this is happening in a comment section on my review is stressing me out, that this guy is like picking actual fights with people. just to yell about how Magic is better. Not necessary. Don't do this.
Not necessary. Even though I'm not like the biggest fan of Yu-Gi-Oh, like, why would you want to go to a spot with obvious Yu-Gi-Oh fans?
Dumb.
Yeah, no, just to pick fights. That got me kind of weirded out that people will do that, but I guess it makes sense. I mean, we're a very public space for all regards. God.
So one of my favorite comments, now we're getting to my Pandora's box, I want to say, there's two that I really wanted to bring attention, was Tokendramu Warriors.
Okay.
One guy basically said it's like they took everything that was good about Muso and then decided to apply Yaoi skin to it.
I mean, are they wrong? Is that wrong?
Technically, but like it's not that word. It's a Josei Mukia game. It's directed towards the female audience. Like that's the whole IP in fact. And
well, sure. And I mean, like, yeah, you can just, this is a bit of a, sorry, Ryuji, I'm totally interrupting you. I was just gonna say, like, you can tell who the game is for because it's a game with a lot of very pretty boys but not a lot of masculine boys, so it's very much intended for women and not gay men.
Yeah.
That
is genuinely how you tell the difference with Japanese properties.
I guess. And well, the one that kind of had me stressed out for, and I can't believe I have to say this, was the comments in my Room Factory 5 review. I just, it was just not great. the moment I saw those comments, I started hating that review so much.
Are you comfortable talking about this? Because you don't have to if you don't actually want to.
Yeah.
I guess I am like, I want to get it out of my chest.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
So one of the comments accused me of like, you should have played Room Factory 4, then you would have enjoyed 5. And I like, dude, I played Room Factory 1, 2, 3, 4, even the Wii spin-offs. I know what Room Factory is, thank you very much. And then there was another comment accusing me for like, so what? The game is not good even though it's on PC. And I was like, yeah, just because like the frame rate is now stable doesn't excuse it of its other fails, does it? So it was a disaster. I got pretty much bullied by Azario every single day that thing came out.
He's like that, unfortunately.
Yeah. he is like that.
No,
in fact,
and but like, not to say there were only bad comments. A lot of people like enjoyed the fact that I just got to the point and talked about the performance on PC. And yeah, that's what I did in my review, because yeah, like it's out on Switch. You guys everyone probably knows the story at this point. So let me just already like not beat around the bush and just come out and say, yes, it performs better. That's what I decided to do when I was writing it. Get to the point, because I know how some people hate beating around the bush. Now, the other like, this is a series of comments. It seems like every time, and it happened multiple times with mobile games, every time I say the word gotcha, and like if you look at any gotcha game that I took, be it preview or review, the first comment you see, it's probably, I was interested, but then you said it was a gotcha, so now I'm not interested anymore. Which I'm sorry.
I mean,
There's probably a whole lot of comments, but I kind of don't like looking at comments, because it makes me, because every time I see a hater comment or a absurd comment, it just makes me, do I really have the neurons to read this? No, I don't.
I mean, there's times when I get like really funny or like comments that like get what I'm going for in the review. Like there was this one, let me see if I can bring it up. There was this one comment that I really liked in my Stray review that just came out a couple days ago.
Yeah,
it was humans destroying themselves and leaving nothing of value behind. Sounds about right. At least the cat can parkour all day. It's like, cool. I like you. You get it. And I had a couple of like really solid comments on my review of Chinatown Detective Agency. A lot of people saying that they were really happy that they saw any kind of review that gave it a low score, because it seemed like a lot of outlets had inflated the score because of the publisher. I really didn't like it. I gave it a 3.5 because there were bugs in the review build that literally prevented me from finishing the game, in addition to just a ton of other bugs all throughout. And I had one guy say, well, judging by the markings and the obvious age of the relic, I'd have to say it would be garbage from King Garbage of the Garbage Dynasty. Referencing, I think, a video clip that was in the review. But like this one guy, and I was like, can someone like make a sock puppet to clown on this dude? Said, so every game is a female lead? Yeah, not buying any more female-led games anymore. And it's like, this is why you have no bitches.
Imagine if you could reply with GIFs or GIFs.
Oh God, that would be my hell.
It would really.
Like so as you know, quite frankly, one of the more progressive people on the site, and like one of the more, like, you know, not that any of us explicitly aren't, but one of the more like explicitly pro-feminist people on the site, I review a lot of games that have female protagonists. Like, just off the top of my head, I reviewed Chinatown Detective Agency, Unpacking, and Unsighted, all of which were from the same publisher. And even then, I'm still like, dude, dude, please go touch grass.
Go touch
No touch
grass.
grass. Yeah, wow. That's one unique comment one can give.
Also amusing when people talk to Azario and Spencer in my comments. Spencer doesn't read the comments, by the way. That's like, people think that we have all these positions. Azario runs all the social media. Bailey's the one that writes the tweets. I believe Ivanir also has access to the Twitter.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
if you see YouTube comments coming from the Noisy Pixel account, that's Azario. Spencer has nothing to do with that, so don't talk to Spencer in the comments.
Just
I
talk
don't
to
even know if he
Azario.
reads the comments on his own reviews, because he doesn't review much these days. He just does the voiceover.
Yeah.
He's the voice for us. And also, like, to be fair, we all have access to the channel to some degree, but it's like very limited. Nate, for instance, he can only like he has only access to, like, I believe, publish these episodes.
No, I wouldn't say we all. I have no access. I have absolutely nothing. Most of us have no access. Nate has the ability to publish specifically so he can publish this podcast. So that we didn't have to bug Azario about it.
It was only because Azario kept forgetting to publish us.
Yeah,
it would be like 8 o'clock on Tuesday or Wednesday morning, and I'd be like, "Hey Azario, where's Stray Pixels?"
Oh, I forgot.
Yeah, and then he has to download and upload it from me.
So it was just like better because Nate had the like file. We wouldn't need, because I mean sending it over and downloading it, it's already compressed. So you're compressing even further with a download, I think.
Well, technically, you uncompress it thing, but still, yes, you are right. I know one of my favorite things I just refound was on my which is an In Sound Mind review. There's a guy who says a 7.5 is a crap score, which then goes on to us saying, dude, what are you talking about? 7.5 is a good score, to them being clowned on by like 4 or 5 different people on the thing. Like, my exact one is like, he says, yeah, Fruit of the Loom is a fine shirt, but you're not wearing one on a date. Later on, someone goes, you know what? Fruit of the Loom gives you endless joy.
Well, I mean, there are like the comments that I mostly look to see is like, what's my grade what does your grade say? Because I feel like for some people it's really blurry. I mean, some people found the 6.5 that I gave Room Factory 5 really low, while some find it was really high. And so I'm like, which is it? Like, what's the actual scale here? It's hard to really.
No, and we were talking about this earlier in the server, but I actually had in my latest review, they said me giving like an 8 was too high, and they read, and somebody says, yeah, but their words are fine, you know, what they're saying is fine, so lop off 1 to 1.5 points and they're usually spot on. It's like, okay,
no, I gave it, like, we gave it the score we gave it. Like, and to be clear, because people have accused Azario of being like some other outlets I don't really feel like naming right now. Azario does not change anybody's score. If the most that has ever happened is if your review and your score don't seem to match up, it will be mentioned by an editor, but at no point have I ever had my score just blatantly changed.
Yes.
And even then, he will go like, "Yay, hey, so you gave it this score, but your review feels like this score. Would you like to adjust your review, or would you like to change your score?" Actually, that happens,
and that's constructive feedback. That's saying that either you, based on the way that you wrote the thing up, don't seem to have felt a way that reflects your number score, or you need to change the way that you're writing to better reflect your number score.
Basically, yeah. Like defend your score, defend your score better, especially when you give a high score and your review doesn't seem to focus too much. That happens a lot.
And I will also just like explicitly state this here for people that are not, in our server, and by which I mean the staff server, not the community server. Noisy Pixels policy is not ever to inflate or deflate a score based on who made the game. And this is one of the things that made that Chinatown Detective Agency review so painful for me to do. Was I was just on the struggle bus, like reviewing that game, and I was like, but I reviewed like 4 humble titles in the last 12 months and they were all excellent. Why is this one so trash? But Azaria was like, no, if it's bad, give it a bad score. I was like, okay, fair enough.
As long as you have the writing that defends it, it's fine. If anything, it seems like whenever we post a review that has a grade slightly below the average, it gets a lot of views because everyone's like, wow, why did they give the lowest score? And that actually stems from the way I view some reviews on Metacritic. Sometimes I like to go see like what's the lowest score and then see if there was a reason why it's so below the average.
I think that's one of the reasons why the Chinatown Detective Agency review is one of my most viewed, is because I was an outlier score on Metacritic. I think I'm like 2 whole points below the next person above me. So I don't want this to be all negative. I love a lot of the comments that I get, even the ones that are just like kind of ribbing me. Like there's this one on my Endwalker review that's just like, wow, 10 out of 10. And it's like, okay. Yes, I did give it a 10. Thanks for the engagement boost. I chuckle. Although some of the ones on this are like really deranged. So I made a reference to Final Fantasy 15, which was and is like 7 years old now. And at this point, I'm pretty sure basically everybody that's going to play Final Fantasy 15 has done so already. And I had people complaining that I gave a minor spoiler for that game in my review of Endwalker when I was referencing the way that the game pretty clearly parallels certain elements of that story. And I also had people asking me like, okay, but what about the gameplay? How's the gameplay? What about these basic questions about the game? And it's like, I'm reviewing the 4th expansion of a game that's been out for 10 years. Do you need me to explain Final Fantasy 14 to you from the ground up in a 4.5 minute review?
Yeah, man. I want to hear about 1.0 in this review.
One person was like, can you play this on console? With like, weird that there was spoilers from the series, which people are coming for gameplay on reviews. Can you play this on console with no friends? I feel like the writer just wanted to prove he's played the whole series, and it's like, what do you want from me? It's an MMO.
It's like going to a Jackbox game review and then asking, can I play this by myself? And you're like,
if you really want the answer to that question, kind of yes, but mostly no, I don't recommend it. It's way more fun if you just accept that you're going to play it with people. That's the answer to that question.
That's the unfortunate hard truth, is it's not for our more lonely customers.
Even though there are some games that can be played with just one player.
So, to be fair, 14 tries its best to cater to those lonely people. But ultimately, it is best experienced with others. that's where you're going to get the bulk of your fun, is bitching and memeing about bosses with people.
Yeah, that's the thing about MMOs, is that like MMOs are meant to be that. There's really not, you can dance around it, but like most of them can't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know how long there was jokes about the sprout locking in Praetorium because people would run that shit so fast. Or, you know, and then when they finally made it so it's unskippable cutscenes, how much fun it was just to bitch and complain with people about it, or how everybody would throw up in chat such devastation was not.
Yes, people who can recite Gaius and Nero's speeches line by line from the Praetorium, or people that as soon as they get Praetorium would be like, oh, I'm gonna pull up Netflix.
Yeah.
Movie time. Like, I love 90% of the people that comment on my videos, 95 even, probably. If you want to roast me, like, if you've got a good joke to make, feel free. I love that. Take me down a peg, like, say whatever you want. If you have a genuine critique of the way that I wrote the thing, do that. But, like, have some common sense. I'm not going to explain Final Fantasy XIV in a review for its 4th expansion. Beyond just like maybe 2 sentences about what it is. You should probably already know, if you're looking up a review for Endwalker, there's a 99.99999% chance you know exactly what Final Fantasy XIV is, and you just want to know what the deal with the new expansion is. And if it lives up to the hype, which I thought that it did, obviously. Just like, don't pick fights with people. It, like, if you disagree with me, that's also fine. Leave a comment saying that you disagreed with me. Be respectful about it. I'll probably even talk to you. I respond to my comments all the time, but don't be weird. Don't be weird, and don't be a developer. Don't be the developer of the fucking game coming into the comments.
Don't be weird, and don't be obviously a dick. Just like,
go ahead.
I'll say this: constructive criticism. That's all we want. Jokes, like, just be constructive. That it's not hard.
It really isn't. And like, I mean, just recently in the same like review I talked about, because it was my phobia review, you know, I mentioned that, hey, this is kind of weird that it did this from, you know, because I was like, why would they do this one thing? And people like started jumping on me and like, oh, so you went to a Brazilian thing? I'm like, I didn't even know it was Brazilian. B, if you knew exactly where I come from, you would understand why it was even more confusing, because it's close enough to Spanish without being Spanish. That is thing. And to me, it was akin of recommending a subbed anime without mentioning it was subbed. If I said at least say, hey, you know, this is how it is.
And we have, you know, 2 Brazilian staff, one of whom is present in this call right now. I reviewed 2 Brazilian-made games last year. I reviewed Untitled and Dodgeball Academia, and they were both wonderful. Like,
well, let's just say, I mean, what Nate experienced made sense. Like, it made sense, but that's because from my perspective, if anything, if it wasn't a horror game, I guess I should have reviewed Phobia. I don't know.
Well, no, because the only thing I wasn't even that it was bad. I just said, hey, notes aren't translated right away. You have to go into an extra menu to translate them, which to me is akin to just saying, hey, if you want to watch this anime, just realize it's only subbed.
I was accused of being racist in the Chinatown Detective Agency review for mentioning the voice act.
Somebody basically told me to not be a critic because there's a war in Ukraine.
Like, obviously there are bigger issues than video games to worry about. I always like when a game has something to say politically. Like, I would much rather a game have a viewpoint than not have a viewpoint. And I'm working on a video essay to that, you know, that very, very idea. But you know, it does, like, not everything we say is an attack on someone.
No.
I said that I thought that the voice acting in Chinatown Detective Agency was bad because of the direction, because it didn't sound like the audio mixer was able to make any of the people sound like they were in the same room.
Mhm.
That's like a base level of quality to be expected when you're being, you know, published by at least a minor league publisher like Humble Games, and you're not just doing this by yourself.
Yeah.
And releasing, you know, on Steam Direct.
Yeah.
It's like, if someone's charging money for something, it's open to criticism.
Yeah. No, like 100%. So I don't know. I just didn't even bother responding to anybody on that review because I was like, fuck it. You know, you coming in here attacking me. You know, I'm not even one speaking. All I got was insultations about how I'm a stupid American. So I was like, fuck it. I'm not even gonna try.
Ryuji, any final thoughts on YouTube comments?
Yeah, I really just want to end like and close this box because I do not want to see my Room Factory 5 review ever again.
Yeah.
I deleted the footage from my hard drive. I deleted the thumbnails and Photoshop files that make up the stuff. I do not want to see it.
Yeah.
At least not for now.
I pretend I do not see it.
Yeah.
I pretend I do not see it. Yes.
Yep. That being said, YouTube comments continue on being some of the weirdest places to be. Sometimes the worst, sometimes mildly amusing. I would say anybody looking to get into this, try not to take the comments to heart and let anything that's being thrown at you kind of wash off your back.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, you know, I tell people to comment under this video every single week. I always recommend leaving a comment, leaving a like, engage with the video. If it's a comment just saying, hey, I like the video, we love that. Thank you. If it's a comment with a piece of constructive criticism, thank you. We'll take that into consideration in the future. If it's a roast, I probably laughed. I love taking the piss out of myself. If I can't joke about myself, who the hell else can I joke about? But just like, have some respect.
Yeah.
We're not even, well, I don't want to spill the beans too much, but like, we're not what you might think that we are as games journalists. And we're doing this out of a love of video games. Please assume that we're coming at it from a place of good faith. Because I don't think many of us would really choose to do otherwise in the position that we're in as a small site.
Yeah, no. And even just to go through with this, you need to have a passion for games like no other.
Indeed.
So I want to thank you guys for listening to another episode of the Stray Pixels podcast. We post theoretically every Tuesday on your podcast app of choice and on the Noisy Pixel YouTube channel. Lost my train of thought. What are some games that you guys would like to see remade in HD 2D? If they're ones we mentioned, cool. If they're ones that we didn't mention, I want to know everything that you guys are thinking about there. What do you think of Live Alive? Did you play the original fan translation? Are you really happy that the Switch game is finally out? Are you exhausted from this long month of Nirvana Initiative, Live Alive, and Digimon Survive?
Can't wait for Survive.
Let us know in the comments. on YouTube. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about in a future episode, you can also leave a comment under this video or talk to us on Twitter. You can find me, Colin, at the Arcane Ranger, Nate at less than Nate, and Ryuji at Ryuji Blades. That's RYUJIBLADES, or the site itself at Noisy Pixel News. The Stray Pixels podcast is brought to you by NoisyPixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to bring you the latest news, reviews, previews, podcasts, and more. Please like, subscribe, and follow to keep up with our future content, and join our community Discord server to come talk nerdy with us. We will see you next week. I don't screw that up very often.
And the book is shut.
Oh my gosh. Later, guys.
See you guys later.